Today we'll be diving into educational system India versus UK. I'll be talking about my 3 children which moved school from the UK to India last year. I will also be talking about the challenges that we as parents faced. So stay tuned till the end to hear all about it. Hi guys, my name is Agnes, and if you're new to the channel, for the context's sake, let me tell you a little background. Me, my hubby and my 3 children have moved from the UK to India just last year in March 2023. And the main reason for it was the kids' education. We thought in India they will benefit from having stronger focus on academics and more chance of getting engaged in extracurricular activities. Now this is a highly requested videos, but those that have been following our journey for the last year since we've joined India. Therefore, if you are interested in content like that and you still haven't subscribed, please support the channel by liking and subscribing. So just for the background, let me give you the age of my children. Anjali, the eldest, is 15 and she's in class 10. Arjun is turning 10 very soon in August and he is in year 5, and Jay is already 7 and he is in class 2. Now in the UK, when we moved, they were still in class 9, 4 and 1, and actually they had to take a step back when moving into India because the academic year begins in a different time to what it does in the UK, which is my next point, the academic year. In England and most of Europe, the academic year begins in September. So if the child in September is already, for example, 6, they will join class 1. Whereas in Poland, for example, just to give you a little background, in Poland the education also starts from September, but the child's age is considered from January as opposed to September. So the cutoff kind of time is different. Nevertheless, the academic year begins in September, whereas in India it actually begins in March. And as to the breaks, in England you have main 2 big breaks, which is one before Christmas and one before Easter. There is one main break, which is the summer vacation, which actually breaks the year from one to another. So kids will have summer vacation between mid-July till the end of August, so 6 weeks. Plus there's another 2 short breaks of 1 week in between of the semesters. Now very occasionally, if there is a bank holiday, they will have 1 day off there and again. However, in India we have slightly different schedule. Here children start New Year in March, then in April they break up for the summer, so mid-April to mid-June they will have summer vacation, and this is 2 months, and it's only because it is very hot, so they're trying to keep the children away from the hottest times to being at school. Also, you have December break, and because my children are now in boarding school, they have the whole month of December off. And also there is a lot of breaks like Diwali breaks, Vaisakhi breaks, Independence Day break, Ganesh Day. You know, there is a lot of Indian festivals where the children will get 1 or 2 or even sometimes 3 days off, just additionally to already 3 months of holidays. But the main difference here is that children study from Monday to Saturday here in India, whereas in England they study Monday to Friday, and I'm not aware of any school in England that actually runs schools on Saturdays unless it's like a private settings. So I'm not really comparing here like for like, because my children were in a mainstream government run school back in England, whereas here in India we have put them in private setting. And the fee for this is around 15 lakh, which is £15,000 per year for all 3 children. And as a comparison, I'm just going to tell you that in England, the cheapest of private educations would be around 15 lakh per 1 child per year. And this is the cheapest. Like if you really want to send them to a good one, you pay around 25 to 30,000 pounds per 1 academic year. So if you have 3 children across their lifespan, you really have to have a fortune to send them to private schools. So this is why we thought if we're going to put them here in India in education, we will be able to afford to pay for the education privately, so they get the benefit of having the best education out there. My kids in England never had any tuitions. Now Anjali used to go for a while to Kumon, which is like a center where children go and learn specific style of calculating and also specific style of English. She used to also have guitar lessons, which were about £20 per half an hour lesson. Whereas here in India, we have tuitions for Anjali, Arjun and Jay of math, English and other subjects as well. So we have a tutor that come and sort of are all-rounders. They help them with their homework, they help them with additional things that they maybe haven't picked up on school. They just make sure that they stay on top of what's being taught at school. Whereas in England, the pressure is sort of pushed away onto the parents, because obviously children, if they don't manage to do their homework, parents have to sit down and help, they have to listen to their read, and the pressure is really, pushed onto the parents, which in England most parents work anyway, so it is quite challenging to have children in school, especially if you have more than one or two, because you have to sit down with each and every single one of them and help them. That's not the case for the secondary school. Children are a bit more independent, and yes, there are some children who go for a private tuitions, but it is not a common practice. Whereas here in India, I feel like no matter how good the school the children go, they still get tuitions, and here in the society, I don't know a single child that doesn't take a tuition. So it is very much a common practice to put children in the tuitions. And most of those tuitions are actually at home, but some children do go to tuition centers, which are local, where there is several teachers, giving tuitions to a few children in the class. Some of you may wonder what board my children are in. So Anjali is currently studying in CI board, the Cambridge board, and boys are just in the normal CBSE board. And in England, obviously, everyone follows the Cambridge board, so it is slightly different. And even the CI board, it's not quite exactly the same as what it is in England. So in England, there is a greater emphasis on individuals' learning pace, and children are not pushed to prepare for the exams. So for example, in the primary schools, I believe there are like assessments during the lessons, so the children would sit down with a teacher, and teacher would, for example, read with them or get the understanding of how far they are in maths, and in that way they sort of assess the individual child, as opposed to sitting them in the group of formal exam settings. So this is not what it is done in England, and parents get a report at least twice in a year whether they progress, and it's not based on a percentage, it's more whether the child is on expected level or is exceeding, or maybe it needs some extra help. So there is sort of 3 or 4 types of assessments or level of assessments that child will be getting, and the parents will be getting regular feedback from the tutors as to how well the child is doing, and also whether there is any additional support which school can help, providing they have support and resources, because sometimes the schools are just overloaded with children and they don't have that support from the government. Here in India, they are very much strict on sitting exams, and my children, the youngest one as well, so Jay, Arjun, as well as Anjali, have 4 exam sessions in a year, which is quite a lot for the children such as Jay or Arjun, I believe. I think 2 exams, 1 mid-semester, 1 at the end, would be more than enough. However, that's just how it is, and children are used to the pressure that they have to take. So like the minute they finish the first exam, they start preparing for the second one, and the focus is primarily on just getting those exams right, because the end marks are based on those exams. And say, for example, the child was just not feeling very well and still had to attend the assessment, obviously the score would be affected by this, and towards the end of the year, the mark could have been lower to what it could have been. The language. Now, both of UK and India, the main language that is being taught is English. Obviously, in England, it's the British English, whereas here in India, it's sort of Americanized Indian English. I don't know how to explain this, but the English that is being used is slightly different to what we use in England. And also, quite often children do end up speaking in Hindi, which is not a big issue for Arjun and Jay, because they have fantastically picked up Hindi, which is another language they had to learn as part of their curriculum. Whereas Anjali has taken French back in England, and because of that she continued with French here in India, and she did not have to start from scratch learning Hindi, which perhaps could have been a benefit to her, because at the moment this is one of the things that she's maybe struggling with, because she cannot quite understand certain jokes or the lingo that's going on. So Jay and Arjun are both studying Hindi, and also now Arjun from the 5th class began studying French, which is great because Anjali is also studying French. That's why he was influenced by what she's studying and picked up French as well, and she's sometimes helping him to do the homework, which is advantage. So you may wonder how they cope, and I would say Arjun and Jay, so the boys, are at that age where they are very much easy to be molded and like adapted. So they have adjusted very, very well. They've made a very good circle of friends, especially here in society, but also in the class. At the beginning it was a little bit difficult because I think they were new to the class, so it's quite natural for the class. If the new child comes in place, they will be like, a bit wary or maybe trying to test how to interact with them. So at the beginning there was a bit of a hiccup where, Jay maybe was complaining that sometimes children would not be very nice to him or, pick on him. Whereas now it is not the case. They have both settled very well and they have very good circle of friends. However, my daughter is not doing so well when it comes to adapting. She is genuinely not feeling quite happy here. And I don't really want to talk too much about it because it's quite a sensitive matter to her. She does not like me discussing things like that. And therefore, I'm just going to say that she's not adapted just as well as boys. It is that age, guys. She is now 15. She was 14 when she came over here. And it is a very challenging time for us as a parents, as well as it is for her as a child to adapt here. So the way the system works here is very different to what it is in England. So the main challenge for us was to choose the right school. We chose the best private school that there is in Madhya Pradesh. Is it the best school really? I don't know because we haven't tested any others, but by opinions of people, this is a very popular choice of school here in Madhya Pradesh. This was one of the things that obviously was a challenge to us, which school to go to. The second challenge was learning the new schedule, the loads of paperwork that we had to fill in for all the 3 children, paying for the education as well, a new environment that we as parents had to learn and understand. So yeah, overall, this whole move has worked really well for my boys, but it hasn't worked so well for my daughter. And this is why, this is probably the biggest challenge that we're facing at the moment. And this is why we're thinking of actually moving either back to England or even looking for another country, and not so much another city, because we know that she's just overall quite inclined to go back into Europe or European system. So to conclude, we are not really comparing like to like, because in the UK my children were in a government-run school, whereas here they are in a private setting, so the education systems are worlds apart. Not only do they get to do many more focused studies, but also do assessments, learn another language. They also get involved in many extracurriculum activities. So for example, my boys are playing instrument, Arjun plays guitar, Jay plays piano, and also they do football outside the school. Anjali does a lot of tuitions outside the school. So yeah, we're not really comparing like to like. And both the schools were very, very different. Here, children studying additional days, so Saturdays is another day for them to go to school, which they're not very happy about, as you can imagine. So in general, here in India, there is a stronger focus on academics and performance and the pressure on children to do well. However, we found this structure to be beneficial for at least my boys. Our kids are gaining a solid academic foundation, and their understanding of core concept is very strong. So it's been an interesting journey for us as parents and for my children as well to adapt and adjust to this system, and for us as parents to navigate these differences and find the best ways to support our children. If you are considering moving from UK to India or from any other country to India, do your research well, make sure that you find the best school, that the board that they're going to, the kind of exams that they have to sit, because it is a big change for the children. I believe that if you move from any other European country here to India, it will be always a challenge for the children to adapt, because the pressure on education is so much higher, and some children are very good at academics and taking those pressures, and some children are not as good. And this is what you have to consider of, how is your child naturally quite academic and is well geared for a pressure. And as much as we thought, our daughter was really good at academics and we thought she's going to adapt well. This wasn't quite the case. So if you have any questions that we might not have answered or covered, or you want to ask some more questions about things that I might not have covered, please don't forget to put them down in the description box below. If you are maybe interested to hear how I've adapted and how is my life going on in India after being here for 1 year, I strongly recommend you watching this video next.